Do a leaper. I'm trying to do more with her than do a feature. I checked the weather, they out here chewing me up. Fuck it, fade away, I left that Lucania. Fuck it, I heard from someone you said you could be us. Nothing, you know my city like a new Korea. All these discussions over who can see us. Hush it, I sold them basements out, let's do arenas. Crush it, she looking.
Yo, what is good everybody? It's your boy Tej, and in this video I'm going to be showing y'all how to make a sample beat for Jack Harlow and Drake. The type of vibe I was going for was Churchill Downs on Jack Harlow's recent album, and this is also inspired by a couple of the other sampled beats that are also on his project. And I'm going to be showing y'all my whole process of how I manipulated the sample and added drums to it, so pretty much my whole process of making the beat. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy these types of videos, be sure to hit subscribe. As always, I'll have the finished beat played at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around for that. And with all that out of the way, let's hop right into the beat. Alright, so the first thing I want to show y'all is the sample that I have before I show any of like the chops or anything like that. And this sample comes from my Sample on Deck sample library, in case you're wondering where I got it from. So I only really used the first part of that sample, about the first 5 or 6 measures or so. So the main issue that I had with this sample right here is it wasn't in time. So the first thing that I started with is I just played the sample on loop, and then I went to the tempo up here and I right clicked on it and then went to the tap setting, and I just used any of the corresponding MIDI keys on my actual computer's keyboard. So the tempo that I have it at is about 160 beats per minute, so I just know that it's in this ballpark. And as I zoom in here, you can see that the guitar is not anywhere close to perfect in time. And so what I had to do is I just went in and manually adjusted that. What I started by doing is I double clicked on the sample here. Originally it was on the resample mode, and I switched it to stretch so that the initial sample was time stretched. And I wanted to cut it at the different parts where I thought it was going to have slightly different time stretching. So for the most part, these are fairly consistent for about the first 2 measures. So I'm going to chop it right here. And then I also noticed at the end that these are also out of time, so I'm going to cut it right here for the last 2 notes. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to go to each clip, click on the top left of them, and then hit make unique as sample. So once I have that, I'm going to go to this mode right here, and then I'm going to turn stretch on, and then I'm going to double click on all my samples to make sure that they are in stretch mode. After I've done that, I'm going to quantize these notes to the beats that we have. So I'm just going to go in here and then scroll it to about this and see if it's on time. So that's pretty good. I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but it definitely works for our purposes. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to move this to on beat and then just play it with a metronome and just see what it sounds like. So this already sounds pretty good. I don't have to do much time stretching on that one, but this one sounds really out of tempo. So again, I'm just going to stretch this until we have something that is pretty close to on beat here. I might stretch it a little more just so it hits better. And then once I'd done all that, I just went back to the tempo and put it up to 162 beats per minute. And then that's how we got our final sample. So then I routed that to a mixer track and I added some RC20 to it. I put the Vinyl 3 preset on and I turned off the noise and adjusted the wobble settings a little bit. I panned it a little bit to the left and merged the stereo separation about 35%. And then I armed the mixer track by highlighting this button right here and then hitting Alt-R on my keyboard and then hitting start to render it out. And once I had done that, I now had this consolidated clip, which was now a lot easier to work with. And the first thing that I did with it is I double clicked and I pitched the sample up by 400 cents or 4 half steps. And this is the sample that I was working with when I added the drums and put in the rest of the beat. As for this chopping right here, overall, it's pretty basic. I didn't really do anything too crazy with it. I just took out like the last beat on the 2nd and 3rd measures and then just pretty much kept everything else the same. So I only really used that for some of the parts like in the hooks and the verses, but that was just a way to keep the sample a little bit fresh and add some variation to it, because for me personally, it gets a little boring to just keep working with the same sample and all that. And once I had done that, I routed this to a new mixer track and I added a couple effects to it. The first being this fruity limiter, and this was just to level out the dynamics of the sample, just to make the overall sample sound more consistent, because whenever the strings on the guitar were being plucked, there was a little bit of like a percussive sound, which made it sound a little bit too loud sometimes. So I just did this to kind of level out the volume. The next thing I put on it was a stereo shaper. The only thing that I really changed was I just put this knob down to around this level. And then lastly, I just put a default halftime on it, which is the automation clip that you see throughout the track here. And how you do that is you right click on the knob in the mixer, go to create automation clip, and then you'll just have a full clip for the song. What you want to do is take this dot at the end, drag it all the way back to your desired size, and then you're going to duplicate that over. And then on the first one, click the top left of the automation clip and hit make unique. And then you can now edit this one without affecting the other one. You can effectively just toggle your halftime on and off. And now that we've done all the sample manipulation and arrangement and all that, we can actually get to the fun stuff of the beat, which is the drums. And all the drum sounds that I used in this video are from my introspection drum kit. It's a free drum kit. I'll leave the link in the description. Be sure to go check it out. So going into the drums here, I only have 5 drum sounds. I wanted to make it as simple as possible, but for these type of beats, I've just noticed that simpler drums tend to work well, not so much because of the sample that you're using, but I think it just gives a lot of room for the artist to just go on and just do their thing. Starting off, I got this like rim snare on the 3rd beat of every measure. And then next I kind of added like this choppy sounding hi-hat. And you may be asking, how do you get such hi-hat bounce? So how you do that is you go here, you right click on your hi-hat sound and then hit each 4 steps and then go into your piano roll, hit Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then scoot it so that they're all evenly spaced, and then hold the Alt key on your keyboard and then scroll down on the scroll wheel and you'll get the staggered hi-hats. And once you do that, you're going to delete everything except for the first measure. And then once you go into the first measure, you go count out to the 4th note here, and then roll that down in velocity and then delete all those. You only have the first 4 notes, copy that over, and then copy that over for the second measure. And the last note of the second measure, you're gonna move it somewhere in between your normal staggered note and then the original velocity, and then just take that and copy it over for your full 8. And that's the basis 2-step, if you wanna call it that, of the hi-hats that I used for this. And the rest is fairly straightforward. I just used the paintbrush tool up here, went to the magnet setting, used 1/2 step and put in this roll and like this one right here. And then the rolls at the end, I went into the magnet tool again, hit 1/6 beat, went here, painted in the rest of the notes. Next, I went in and grabbed this open out sound. And again, it's fairly light just to kind of keep the same consistent theme with the rest of the drums. And the beats that the open at hit on are fairly standard. It's the 2nd beat of all the even measures, and then just put it on the end of the 3rd beat of the 4th and 8th measures. Next, I put in my kick, and this wasn't really meant to add a whole bunch of punch. This is just meant to add some more rhythm to the rest of my drums. For this, I almost wanted to like add an element to a perk loop. I wasn't really thinking about like how my 808s are gonna work with this, even though the spots that they hit would kind of resemble like where an 808 might hit. I think you know where I was going with this, but here's the 808. Overall, I kept this pattern really simple compared to a lot of the other things that I do. I mean, a lot of the beats that I make are kind of like 4PF or dark, something of that sort, and those 808s are really crazy sometimes. But with these types of like sampled beats, similar to the rest of the drums and the sampling process, you want to keep it fairly straightforward. As you can see, it's pretty much just the first 4 measures repeating itself. I didn't add any variations, even though you could. I just didn't feel like it for this beat. But in making this, I was just playing the sample over and over again and then just kind of copying the bass notes or the root notes that were in there that I was able to hear. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful and were able to take something away from it. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more tutorial videos from me, be sure to subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to see me do next in the comments below, and feedback is always welcome. And that's going to do it for me. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Why don't you run with us, Taj?